3, 2. Hello and good morning. Thank you to all RST members, students, and youngsters who've joined our session today. Thank you for being a part of our session. We extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We'll begin our today's workshop with Amazon Web Services, and we have with us Dr. Rajesh Pankaj from FICCI. He's the Director for Education and Skills. Over to you, Rajesh, for the context set.
Thank you, Deepti, and good morning, everyone. We welcome you on behalf of FICCI and AWS to this launch event of FICCI AWS engagement that is around the newest disruptive technology, of course, with a predominant focus on cloud technology. So FICCI, as a national trade association body, has been very proactively involved in this whole space of technological disruption that's kind of taking place, and I've been working very closely with the nodal ministries across to ensure that this whole ecosystem, this whole space that we are treading into is taken to a level where the threshold level of access for citizens and the stakeholders at large is something that everybody has an access to. So from that perspective, we've been very closely working with various ministries, and have been promoting this digital skill initiatives in a big way. In fact, we've been as FICCI, we've always kind of looked at important areas of engagement for a particular year, and this year, in fact, last 2 years to be very precise, has been the years when we have focused a lot around skilling, of course. And with disruption happening at the pace that we are witnessing in, digital skilling has become a predominant element within the skill development committee, higher education committee, school committee, across. So, and this exercise that we're doing it with AWS is as a step towards it. In fact, we have a very, focused and high-powered task force on digital skills, which kind of has representatives from various industry, and various companies in the space that are into space of cloud computing and other digital skills. And we are kind of very, meticulously also kind of looking at the day stack portal that should be launched anytime from now. And there's a notification, a provision that's come up as far as day stack is concerned. And we're trying to kind of critically evaluate that and look into it. And then also in the process, trying to recommend as to what is it that we could do. What are the conversions that it talks about? How do we go about making this whole space seamless, effective, efficient? And in that respect, the cloud computing technology comes into so handy. And what better than AWS, the predominant lead player in this space, slowly and steadily penetrating in this space, not just with industry, but also with various government, state government, and other agencies are adopting it in a big way. So from that perspective, we found this AWS FICCI engagement to be very, very exciting and a very timely and very important initiative. And in fact, I would obviously leave Amit to kind of reflect more on the nuances and nitty-gritty of it. But architecturally, if you talk from a contour perspective, we've tried making it, we're attempting to make this exercise as meaningful as we could potentially do, in the sense that, of course, there's a workshop that we kind of do, which could be for somebody who's not at all into the space of IT and does a one-day kind of engagement and gets fairly oriented towards, so much so that he'll have a broad, basic, fundamental sense of what cloud technology is all about, to a program which could be very focused, with a lot of concerted efforts being put into it, and then trying to kind of create a certified programs going forward where cohort of students would come, working professionals would come, take it up and move ahead in their career as far as cloud piece is concerned. In fact, so if we were to kind of split this engagement into two, it has the element of upskilling for students who are already into third year, second year of their college, or otherwise going to institutions and studying there who want to upskill themselves. And the other space, of course, is a restart program where somebody who's out of work life and wanting to restart again could get into it. So there are various facets to this whole engagement, and going forward, we would want to also kind of have feedback from various quarters to kind of try and strengthen this. The idea is to make it as as exciting and as meaningful as we could. So from that perspective, we see this exercise to be a meaningful, a sustained one. And going forward, we would want to take it. This is a launch, but going forward, we'll see how it emanates, how it pans out. But the idea is certainly to kind of create a permanent forum around this, where we're able to contribute in partnership with AWS in the space of cloud computing. Over to you, Deepti.
Thank you, Rajeshji. Thank you very much for setting the context. We have with us now Shri Amit Mehta. He's the head of AWS training and certification in India. He's also responsible for delivering and scaling cloud skilling programs to learners and organizations. AWS training and certification, as you all are aware, equips people with skills to leverage the AWS cloud and innovate in the digital world. So with training programs that are specifically designed by the experts at AWS, Amit works to empower learners at all levels to build their confidence and also develop leaders to drive transformation and deliver results in their organization. His focus areas include understanding customer transformation challenges, designing upskilling programs to help them close cloud skills gap, drive team management, and implementing transformational plans to achieve success. Prior to AWS, Amit had held leadership roles in Dell, Microsoft, with experience in business growth, sales, and marketing within the technology industry. So a very warm welcome to you, Amitji.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Deepti. So a warm welcome to all who have joined us today. And thank you, Rajesh, for setting the context. I'm going to take the next 10 minutes, team, to actually give you a view of why digital skills is so critical today and the importance of what we are trying to do. So that you have an opportunity to participate in one of the biggest, I would say, changing landscapes of skill. Deepti, can you just give me a heads up if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, so this initiative is really about building future-ready workforce in India. And let me give you a quick perspective of the market, because this is the market that some of you are going to join if you are students and you're graduating from, let's say, you're in 3rd and 4th year, or if you are professionals who are working in the industry and want to upskill. So what's happened is that the COVID pandemic has actually accelerated the pace of digitization and adoption of technologies like cloud computing for executing their technology agenda. So in a survey that we did, so we did a survey across 7 countries in APJ, about 2,000 participants and employers. Out of that, about 1,000 odd were from India, and this was with the research firm Alpha Beta, with whom we commissioned this research. So 91% of the employers said that the COVID has actually accelerated the pace of digital adoption. And what that has meant is that there's an increased demand for digital skilled workers. So 92% of them come back and say, since they have to deploy their technology on the cloud, since they have to look at solutions for AI, ML, big data, analytics, the need for digital skilled workers has suddenly surged. And, they had not really actually planned for that capacity increase, because the business they had not actually jumped on the digitization bandwagon, and their plans were probably 3-4 years out. But what has happened is COVID has actually contracted that. And when you look at the workers and the employees in the market today, so 95% are more aware of the importance of having digital skills, and what they realize is that many of them actually don't have a plan to, or a visibility to, how they're going to get to that digital skill environment. So I think fundamental construct is India is going to be $1 trillion digital economy. The original plan was we'll get to about 2025 $1 trillion digital economy. Good part is this acceleration already. There was a report yesterday that came out that says that the online commerce has jumped threefold in the last couple of years on account of COVID. So all of that has probably going to accelerate. So we may have missed the $5 trillion digital goal, but where we are, we'll probably hit the $1 trillion digital economy goal faster. So I think that's the market that we are operating in. And as per the research, just next year alone, over next year alone, there are about 27.3 million more people who will be required with digital skills training. And this digital skills training incidentally encompasses productivity training, a set of trainings across a set of domains, and cloud skilling and high-end skilling around AI ML is like one of them. So if you see overall on an APAC level, it's about 86.1 million, and India will need about 27.3, and that represents about 7% of the workforce. So that being the case, I think the question that all of us in the industry, the academy, are asking, what is going to happen to make that a reality. So you would have all heard about the new education policy, which is looking at a credit-based system for all of you to accumulate credits over a set of courses and kind of use that to get different. So that's where there is effort to also include digital trainings and the high-end training as part of that goal as well. So now there's clearly a gap when it comes to the realization of where it needs to be, the desired state, but where it is right now, there's a gap. So if you see just the number of percentage of organizations who yet to develop a skills plan, there's a gap. So 97% of the organizations say they need a plan, but only 45% of them have done something about it. They have looked at the entire organization, looked at what are the skill sets required for the future, and done something about it. So about 52% of the workers, of the organizations are still kind of approaching these piecemeal, not having a perpetual learning environment in the businesses to really progress the discussion forward. And if you just look at the number of workers who are confident of their readiness, actually 46% workers who do not feel that they are trained adequately, and there are others 54% who are feeling they're training. But so if you really need to bridge the skills gap, we need to see these percentages dramatically change over the next, I would say, 12 to 18 months, which is the focus of something at AWS that my team is driving and working with industry bodies to see how we can fast track this. Now, it is important to understand what are the skills that are required. What are the top skills? And if you see the top skills here, cloud and cyber security skills are really, what you need as the top 5 skills. So whether it is ability to use cloud-based tools, whether it's about ability to do technical support, common IT problems, which could be in the cloud, which could be on-premise, advanced digital marketing, or artificial intelligence. So all of them have to do something with leveraging cloud for delivering on the technology promise, or using advanced tools which cloud facilitates better compared to an on-premise IT environment. So fundamentally, cloud-based skills are going to be very critical. There was another research that was done by NASSCOM, and they came up with a statistic that India needs about 2.2 million cloud engineers by 2025, and we probably just have a supply pool of about 1.4. So about 700,000 gap just in terms of cloud skills. And these skills are related to cloud architecture. These are related to developing on the cloud. These are related to system operations. So those are the areas we at AWS believe are the roles that are going to drive, are going to be in high in demand. And these roles are also going to command a premium in salary. So if you are, for instance, an engineer in the 3rd and 4th year, and if you were to take an AWS certification, we have anecdotal evidence available in the market that you have a chance of immediately out of the gate getting a 20% premium on your compensation. So that's why it's so front and center today in everybody's mind as to what they're doing about the cloud. And if you see what are the benefits that are accrued to an organization, for instance, who's looking at a skill environment. So if you just see the top 3, higher employee satisfaction, because now they're doing work which is aligned to the business goal. They're doing work on cutting edge technology, and they can use technology to drive business goals, which itself drives satisfaction. There's higher increased productivity because of the obvious goals. Now you don't have to, repeat mundane tasks of IT management are left to the specialists in the cloud. You just need to focus on the value that you drive for the business, and that drives higher IT productivity. And then just faster achievement of digitization goals. So for instance, if you see, India is now the second in terms of just the startup number of startups that are coming up, second or third between America and China. And if you see why they succeed is because they can easily spin up their technology environments in the cloud, and they can have faster access to market. They can accelerate how quickly they release their minimum viable product, and they can be in market faster compared to, let's say, an on-premise IT environment, which takes 6 to 8 weeks at the minimum just to source and provision. So, and then obviously there are cost efficiencies and improved customer experience. So those are the kind of top 5 that the benefits that our employers are seeking. And, in India, at AWS, we had the opportunity to lead that agenda. And since 2017, we've trained or immersed about 2 million individuals into the cloud curriculum and guiding them to the path of certifications and really giving them a counsel on what cloud career potential roles that they can take up. And in doing that, what we have done is we have devised a number of programs which address different cohorts in the Indian ecosystem of talent, and we nurture that. So whether it is students, so if some of you are students who've joined us today, this is our focus. How do we build the talent of the future? And we have programs like Aws Educate and Academy, which are essentially programs where we tie up with the universities and teach curriculum, instructor-led curriculum. For instance, Academy is an instructor-led program. Educate is an online self-paced program, and students can go through the curriculum, which is free of cost to them, and the certifications are also discounted to about 50%. So Academy has more than 300 odd institutions in India who have tied up with us, and we are working with them. And Educate is an online portal. There are 12 odd paths that you can take, and you can get badges as you complete. So that's the talent of the future. Then we also recognize, I think, the immediate potential is upskilling the current talent pool where the working professionals are there. And that's where, we have AWS Skill Builder, which offers about 500 free digital titles on the internet. Again, self-paced. You can choose the titles basis the role, basis the type of work or specialty that you want to get into. These are self-paced again. You can get started here. And then should you want to progress further on the path, you can actually take and join our instructor-led curriculum. And then there are about 12 odd industry certifications, which actually validates your skill. And AWS certifications are in the top 10 certifications that are sought by companies today. And if you see whether it is fintech, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is telecom and media, whether it is gaming, across the board, we have thousands of customers who've embraced AWS and actually accelerated the business. And that's where the bunch of this talent pool gets deployed. And then we are also focusing on diversifying the talent pool. And here, as Rajesh talked, there's AWS Restart, which is a 12-week intensive program funded by AWS, 9 to 5, where we take people who have no tech background, or people who are from underdeveloped backgrounds, or people who are unemployed, or veterans who want to join the workforce, but for some reason they have not been able to. How do we make them ready for the tech careers? And that's where we have we have the 12-week Restart program. People go through that curriculum. They get a certification of Cloud Practitioner Essentials, and we also connect them to potential job opportunities. So our promise is to not only skill, but also connect people to employment, because that's how the wheel gets completed. And that's where our employment engagement team comes in. So our employment engagement teams will take alumni of Educate, Academy, Restart, and connect them to potential industry jobs. And then for women who want to come back to the workforce because they took a sabbatical, or for students, lady students who want to kind of jumpstart their careers, we have a program with Aspire for her. It's a focus engagement that has about 30,000 odd community members today. And the focus is how to increase the diversity of the talent pool in India and help our women, embrace tech careers and be successful at them. So this is what we have done. And in line with this, our partnership with FICCI becomes very critical, and I'll just talk about that in a bit. But in doing this, we've created joint success with customers and partners, thousands of customers across startup ecosystem. These are some names that you have in front of them. Perfius, for instance, is a company which helps financial institutions take lending decisions and establishes the credit worthiness. And they use a lot of data to establish whether a person is credit worthy or not, and help fast track the lending process of a bank. They process about 500 million transactions a month, and they use AWS to actually half the deployment time and train more than 60% of their workforce. You all use Paytm, and Paytm leverage AWS to fast track their development cycles, improve the security postures, and just build a continuous culture of learning and upskilling. Because the thing about the cloud environment or digital environment is you get started with one skill set or one workload or one type of service, but then you start, it's like a Lego block. You start adding services, you start adding new solutions and you need skill sets to those. So you need a culture of perpetual learning. And then you have companies like TCS, which is really tasked with a bimodal responsibility, how to nurture new talent. They have done full stack development, how to kind of ensure that they understand what developing in the cloud means, and then also transform existing talent. So we address both the new hire work stream and their existing talent work stream by working with them very closely. And then we have organizations like Tech Mahindra and Capgemini, who really are our funding partners into the Restart program, and Capgemini also is a recruiting partner for the Restart graduates. So, and there are many stories like this. We have a SMB digitization strategy in the country, where our plan is to digitize 10 million SMBs by 2025. And we just launched our SMB Vidyalaya initiative, just to help entrepreneurs, for instance, understand what cloud is, and they're not necessarily aware of technical language. So how to get them started and help them to embrace India-centric solutions for things like GST, for things like ERP, customer care. So that's what we do. And that is why our integration with FICCI is very important. So our partnership with FICCI is all about taking the best of industry learning that we have developed, the expert-led curriculum that we have developed. How do we take that and apply that to verticals? For instance, fintech, for instance, manufacturing. How do we help these verticals, accelerate their digital transformation and give to us also the industry point of view? FICCI has bodies which talks to different industries. How do we develop solutions, work with the different companies in different verticals, and make solutions specific to India? Along this line, we have launched an initiative called AI for India, where we are also talking about use cases that can be developed on AI to solve India-centric problems, and that's something that will bring along in this initiative as well. So that's the role. Our joint role, therefore, is to create that joint partnership of success and bridge the cloud skills gap aligned to sectoral priorities. So that's where we are, and I would really want to thank you. I would urge you to take advantage of this learning opportunity. And we are there with you along with FICCI to help you guide along this path. Thank you so much for your time today. Back to you, Deepti.
Thank you so much, Amitji. Thank you very much. Quite detailed, impressive, of course. We will now move on to the next part of our workshop, which Dr. Girisha Garg and Deepika and I are going to start with. Before we begin the workshop, I would once again welcome you all and thank you all for being a part of this workshop. Special thanks to our officers and personnel from Federal Bank and Innovative Solutions for being a part of our session today. We have with us our trainer, Dr. Girisha Garg. She's an experienced researcher and trainer with an experience of over 14 years. At her present role as a senior technical trainer with AWS, she's combining her passion for teaching and technology to enable customers understand and adopt to AI ML services on the cloud. She delivers courses around machine learning and cloud computing and is an AWS authorized champion instructor. Very warm welcome, Dr. Garg.
Thank you so much, Deepti. Welcome everyone to the session. I'm really excited to share my experiences and my information about the cloud with you all. Thank you for the introduction, Deepti.
Thank you. Thank you. We also have with us Deepika Nair. She's the training delivery manager, technical training delivery manager with AWS Training and Certification. She's also very passionate for training, and her enthusiasm for technology to drive learning and establish positive customer relationships and also positive customer experiences is she's very passionate about. She leads a team of highly skilled technical trainers who have enabled AWS customers to digitize and scale their businesses. She has more than 15 years of industry experience, and she is 6x AWS certified, 6 times AWS certified, and is an AWS authorized champion instructor as well. A very warm welcome, Ms. Deepika.
Thank you so much, Deepti. It's a pleasure to be here today. And me and Girisha really look forward to giving you a fantastic learning experience today. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. So may I now request Dr. Garg to please put on the presentation and we can start with the workshop.
Thanks, Deepti. I hope all the participants can now see the presentation. We'll get started with the AWS Cloud Fundamentals today. Deepti, can you please confirm if you can see the screen? Thank you. All right. So very good morning, everyone. It's going to be an afternoon in some time. And I thank all of you, first of all the officials out there, all the students out there for spending this time with us. So in this 1.5 hour session, we'll try to make sure you get started with the cloud. So the first impeding, first thing that can several times impede our journeys with cloud or any other new technology is the resistance to get started on the practical front or get started on the mechanisms, because we're really afraid sometimes what it will mean, what it will do. So the idea here is to introduce you to a few services out here, which you can use to get your journey started on. Now, first of all, let's answer why, right? So what exactly is cloud computing? Why you should be using cloud computing? You would have all different definitions of what cloud computing would mean to you, but essentially it's just your own laptop. Just imagine it in layman language, your own laptop sitting down somewhere on other server, but you don't have to manage, right? So when I think of cloud computing, even the storage that you get on your phones, right? You are saving your images, you are saving your data somewhere, but is it all getting saved on your phone? You don't know, right? So most of it might be saved on your phone. Some of it might be saved in the cloud somewhere. So that exactly is cloud computing, So you don't have to think about saving everything on your phone. You can actually save your data somewhere on the cloud, right? So cloud computing is just not thinking about the infrastructure, not thinking about the hardware, rather just making sure you can develop applications, develop great products using the software technologies out there, right? So that exactly is cloud computing for you. Of course, you would mean different definitions out of there. Now, as a person who's coming from a background from finance, or maybe as a student, you should ask the question, why should I use cloud computing? The question should be, why should I go there? Why should I start a new thing? Why should I start learning a new technology at all? Why should I adopt to a new technology at all? We all know what cloud is doing with the market. We all know what is the penetration around the cloud computing, but what are the benefits are we reaping around it, right? What are the benefits the customers are reaping from using the cloud computing technology? So the first major aspect of the cloud computing itself is you don't have to think about hardware, right? So if any one of you has ever visited a particular data center, you would know that it is not only just bringing up a data center, it entails taking care of it. It entails taking care of the physical servers out there, the security, the powering, everything, right? So in making up a data center at your on premises, it requires a lot of capital expense, right? Now, what if I could tell you, you don't have to worry about that expense, and rather that translate into a variable expense? How? Because now you will have to worry only about the services that you're using. You will only have to worry about the application that you're building, rather than thinking about how to create a complete data center out there, right? So you are trading capital expense for a variable expense. The second benefit, which is one of my favorite, is increasing of speed and agility. Why? Because just try to imagine, folks, back in the day when we did not have the cloud, at least for me, I've come from a research background. I used to provision the servers. I used to send out tenders, and those tenders used to take at least a month or so to get back to us. If you ever need a CPU or a GPU or a storage, you need to fill out big tenders. The quotation goes out and whatnot, right? But now I just have the resources with one click. The researchers today have one click ability to get the compute available. So you are no more getting involved in the process of provisioning the resources for 1 month, rather just a few minutes or at max a few days, right? So this is how you're increasing the speed and agility to go to market, to research. For students out there, you get to experiment a lot without having to wait to get your resources provision from your universities, from your colleges, right? So that's another benefit. Of course, when you go there in the market, if I gave you an option to buy something from a wholesaler, from a normal wholesaler, or from a retail market, I believe many of you would say the answers would be, I would prefer to buy from a wholesaler. Why? Because they can give you some products at the lower prices. How is that possible? Because they deal with massive scales, and that is the exact benefit you get with AWS. Since AWS deals with hundreds and thousands of customers, we get the benefit of massive economies of scale, and that benefit is actually translated in lowering down the costs for a customer, right? So this is the benefit you get because of the large economies of scale of customers that we have. The fourth one is you don't have to maintain the data centers. As we talked earlier, it is one thing to create a data center, but it's absolutely a next level task to maintain it, right? Let me share one very funny experience with you. While I was interning in my time at one of the NPTC center. So one of my colleagues was actually interning at a data center over there. Okay, his task every day was to come in the early morning and make sure none of the cooling systems were dripping, because if the cooling systems drip, the water might get collected, the servers might drown and whatnot, right? So his task was to make sure and check all the cooling systems working fine, or none of them were dripping. Every server was having a temperature maintained, right? So just imagine, this is the very small thing I'm mentioning out there. Just imagine what kind of maintenance it would go. For all the students out there, you would understand when your laptops heat up, right? So you have to add a mechanism to cool it down. It's just your simple laptop, right? But imagine the type of servers you would need when you create big applications, when you create heavy computing tasks. So how much cooling power you will be needing to keep them cooled down, right? So you have to maintain data centers, and rather than spending money on maintaining those data centers, why not use that time? Why not use that effort? Why not use that money on developing great application for your customers, for developing great architectures for your developers to learn from, to create infrastructure or a mechanism for your developers to create great products as well, right? So this is where we say, stop thinking about maintaining your data center, rather than just put your efforts in creating great platforms and products for your users and customers. That is the fourth one. Now, the fifth one is where we want you to stop guessing capacity, right? Why? Because just imagine, many of you must have got your phones right there in your hands currently. You might be just browsing it through currently. So tell me something, while you are buying that phone, were you thinking, should I buy this particular memory? Should I buy an advanced one? Is it going to be 128? Is it going to be 256? Right? That thought must have gone through mind. Now, once you buy it, can you increase the capacity? No, right? You can upgrade it, right? So that's the challenge with your physical hardware or physical servers, right? You have to, first of all, sit down with your team, decide how much capacity you need, make those decisions very wisely. More capacity, you will be losing money. Less capacity, you will be losing customers, right? Now, what if I told you with cloud, you eliminate that step? You eliminate that step, absolutely, because you can scale up and down when and how you want, right? So you don't have to think about capacity in advance. Whenever your customers are coming in numbers, you can go ahead and increase the capacity. That can be an automatic step. Whenever the customers are decreasing, for example, at the end of every financial year, there are a lot of loan applications, right? So what if the number of loan applications suddenly increase by the end of the financial year, right? So you should speed up your servers. Okay, but what if I told you that can be done automatically? You would not have to sit down with your team, work out the mechanisms, calculate the numbers, how many loan applications are we expecting, and so on and so forth. You could just make it an automatic mechanism where you'll scale up as the loan number of application increases. You can scale down as the number of loan application decreases. As simple as that, right? And the last one, but not the least, is going global in minutes. especially with this pandemic, one thing that we have learned is we have to work together across geographies, right? We cannot be limited within the geographies. Now, I understand with many of you who are coming from a financial background, this benefit might not seem a very heavy one, because the data regulations want you to stay within a particular geographical boundary. But let me tell you something. Going global in minutes doesn't mean that you have to cross the boundaries for reaching out the customer. Your customer could actually be sitting down in Australia while your data still resides in Mumbai, right? So that is possible with the cloud. So you can actually go global in minutes with your customers across the globe. And let me tell you something, without burning your pocket. You don't have to burn your pocket or make a hole in your pocket to make sure your customers out there in the globe can access your services, can access your banking services. You don't have to worry about that. So these are the main 6 benefits that we can derive from cloud. Of course, there will be many, many more as per your applications, as per your use cases, but these are the major one which we usually talk about. Okay, now going ahead, let's talk about cloud computing deployment models. Once we have understood the why, okay, so for all the students out there, you have now understood why you should transition or why you should start your cloud journey. And for all the officials out there, I hope you understand what importance cloud will be bringing to the table for you. Okay, now the question next is, how will you do this? Okay, so the why has been answered. Let's move on to how will you deploy your models on the cloud. What are the mechanisms around that? So we usually have 3 different models out there. One is the cloud, second is the hybrid, and third is the on-prem. Now let's understand what is the difference out there. Okay, so when I talk about the cloud, okay, we usually say that cloud-based application is a fully deployed in the cloud. All the parts of the application will run in the cloud. They either have been created in the cloud itself, right? So for example, let's say a student attending today's session from a 4th year batch goes tomorrow to start their professional journeys in an organization. He or she out there says, I know what is AWS cloud. I have been trained on that. I am certified a cloud architecture. So I will start creating my products in the cloud itself. So that exactly is the cloud deployment model. Okay, so they can be built on low-level infrastructure pieces, or they can use high-level services that provide abstraction from the management, architecting, scaling requirements, right? So that is one aspect. The second thing is the hybrid model. So now what exactly is the hybrid model? A hybrid deployment model is where you want to combine or connect the infrastructure and applications between cloud-based resources and existing resources which are not located in the cloud. Let me give you an example out there. As a payment provider, right, PayU, for example, let's take an example of the case study there. They already have their banking partners who are holding up their data on the on-prem of their customer centers, but they still want to use the compute capabilities, the analytic services of the cloud. So what they have created is a hybrid structure wherein the cloud is being used for computing purposes, the cloud is being used for analytical purposes, but the data from their partners is still residing on their customer ends, right? So this model enables an organization to extend and grow their infrastructure into the cloud while connecting the cloud resources to the internal systems as well. So this is one mechanism where you can still maintain your on-prem data, on-prem compute resources, and in addition to that, you can leverage the cloud benefits, right? This is the second model. The third one, which is the on-prem, right? On-premises. So when you want to deploy resources on premises using virtualization, resource management tools, all these things. So you have dedicated resources, right? In most of the cases, this is pretty much the same like your legacy IT infrastructure, but it also might use application management, virtualization technology, to increase the resource utilization. Okay, you have your own private cloud. So that exactly what on-prem would mean. Okay, what will be the use cases for that? Very heavy compliance, the data, the compute, everything must reside. You do not want to rely on the internet, remote locations. All these are examples of on-prem cloud deployment model. Okay, so these are the three main models where you can say, okay, let me try to get started on the cloud, or let me try to transition to the cloud, or let me try to combine both in a hybrid approach by on-prem as well as the cloud, or last but not the least, let me try to use the management and the resource utilization and maintain a private cloud for myself on the on-prem itself. Okay, so these are the three deployment models. Now, where does AWS comes in this? Okay, Amazon Web Services is a secure. Why I say secure at the first word? Because security is always job zero, folks. Okay, so it's a secure cloud platform that offers a broad set of global cloud-based products. Now, please concentrate on two keywords that I've used here, folks. I've used two very keywords here. One is the secure, another is broad. Okay, these two are very elementary terms for anyone starting their journeys on the cloud. Secure, because you want to make sure your applications are not falling into malicious effects or you're not losing your data. Broad, why? Because today you might want to create a serverless solution for your banks. Tomorrow, you might want to create an online verification system for your customers. You would need different set of services. As a small bank, you might just need 2 or 3 services, right? As a larger bank, you might still need 2 or 3 services, but the detailing of the number of components of that might be different. So you need a broad set of cloud-based products out there. So this is what AWS is going to provide to you. Let me also take you to a few key features around there. Okay, give me a moment, please. Okay, so AWS provides you with on-demand access to compute, storage, network, database, and other IT resources. Why on-demand access? Because tomorrow, if you want to use a storage capability, you can use that. If let's say 5 days later, you realize that this is not suitable for your requirements, are you committed to it? No, you can actually just turn it off and start back with something which is more appropriate for you. So it offers you flexibility as well. And you only pay for the resources and the services that you need for as long as you use them, right? You're not bounded with it. You're not committed to using something. When you buy a laptop out from the market, you have to use it unless you go ahead and change it, right? But it's not like that on the cloud. Today, I'm working on one type of server. Tomorrow, and maybe 5 minutes later, I decide to use some other type of server. You are free to use it. It's nothing like you're bounded with it, right? So you are provided that ability to be flexible enough. You're provided that ability to use individual services as and how and wherever you need. So the pricing mechanism is you pay only for what you need and how much you need it, and how much you use it. Okay. And what if I told you on top of it, there is a managed service idea where all the services can work together without you having to manage it. So with AWS, you have two concepts. One is unmanaged service, one is a managed service. In unmanaged service, you get maximum flexibility. You want to say, Garisha, I want to make sure because I want complete control over my resources. So I want to manage everything. You have unmanaged solution. But tomorrow you might say, Garisha, I do have a use case wherein I do not want to manage my services. I want to offload it. Okay. So you have managed set of services. Okay. So all these services work together, whether it's compute, whether it's your storage, whether it's your networking, everything will work together like building blocks. So you do not have to worry about networking. You do not have to worry about stitching together the components. components, all these things can be done in a very smooth manner without any tussles. Okay, so this is what AWS brings on the table for you. Now, I would have asked a lot of questions. I would have asked a lot of interactive questions with all of you, but this platform will be more meaningful if we keep the questions at the end of the session. So hold up your questions out there. I'm expecting a lot of questions from all of you. What we are going to do is we will be covering up the, this training or learning session in a while. And then later on, we'll dedicate around 15 to 20 minutes for your questions itself. Okay, so just hold in there. If you do have something on the side, maybe a pencil or a pen or a paper, and maybe a notepad for the newer generation. I'm still old generation where I still use pen and pencil paper, but you can just keep track of your questions on a notepad also. We will take up all the questions later on. Okay, now we have understood why. We have understood how, and now let's understand what all will you need to get started. Okay, so this is the foundational services hierarchy, where I say, okay, let's start with the regions. Okay, so what exactly is the regions? Aws Education, we'll be discussing about that. Very little information about that. Then we have foundation services. Foundation services, what is the building block for any of your application or product that you're going to develop? Okay, so you will need a compute, just like your phone, my friends, right? So when you get a phone, there is a processor on your phone. There is something which connects your phone to the internet, and there is something which can store your data, right? So this is what the complete phone is made of, apart from all the applications and other things and other softwares. But these are the three main things. Similarly, the foundational services for any application, any product that you will be creating is compute, networking, and storage. Compute in terms of virtual servers, compute in terms of being able to scale vertically, scale horizontally, balancing the load. If the traffic is increasing, I have 3 different servers. I want to make sure all of them get equal load, right? So all these things, more advanced details, but yes, compute, networking, storage are the 3 foundational services. Then on top of that, you have platform services. What if I want to create a container out of it? Now, many of you who are about to graduate either from a computer science or IT background, or maybe from any generic background from electronics as well, you would know today the containers is something that you need for making your code available to every platform in a fuss-free manner, right? So if you want your dependencies, your code, everything combined at one place, that is what containers is used for. Then for databases, anyone from a database background would understand not every database can have one particular schema, right? So it can be a graph database, it can be a relational database, it can be a non-relational database. You can have OLAP transactions, you can have OLTP transactions, whatnot, right? So with AWS, we have services which can help you use any kind of data, and we have dedicated database services for handling different types of data types as well. Okay. Then you also have real-time applications, real-time services. For example, you today with the new IoT, phase going on, we want to make sure we gather as much of streaming data as possible and then make intelligent decisions on base of that. Now, that is possible with AWS services like Kinesis, Firehose, Kinesis Data Stream, Lambda, a very used service. When you transition to the AWS cloud, you'll realize just how much lifesaver a Lambda is. Okay, so but yet these are all the services which entail your learning. Now we will be talking about a few of them in the coming up slides, but I want to take a moment here and talk to you something about the importance of less, folks. whenever we are creating architecture, you might be sometimes whenever you're going ahead as a banking official or as a student in your careers, whenever you're going ahead, you might be sometimes interested in taking up AWS services. You might be lured to use as many services as possible. But let me tell you something, sometimes less is what you need. Okay, so whenever you feel that you want to create architectures, try to use the services which are apt for your use case and on your databases and your storage and your compute, right? That is where AWS gives you a plethora of options to use custom-made services which can suit your application. Again, the key learning from this is to make sure you explore the services enough to use the services as per your application, as per your data, as per your storage, and not just use something which is more popular towards it. Okay, so just make sure of that. Now, moving ahead, these are the different categories of services from analytics, application, mobile. If there's anything missing out there which you can think of, please reach out to us and we'll make sure that you get that service as well. But I can't think of any category which is missing out there for technology and application developments. You have everything on the plate here. Okay, now what are the core services? As I discussed, the networking, the cloud, the storage, and definitely the security. Okay, so these are the core services. VPC is for networking, EC2 is for compute, S3, EBS, EFS, S3, again, Glacier is for storage. For database, we have RDS and DynamoDB. And for security and access management, we have IAM. Now, these might be very nuanced techniques for some of you. These might be too naive for many of you. Let's get started and get a hold of some of these, okay? But before we talk about services, remember what was the core layer? It was the infrastructure. Infrastructure is on top of which everything is built across, right? So let's talk about global infrastructure for a while. So what exactly is the AWS global infrastructure? In AWS, we are responsible for anything what happens on the cloud. There's something which is called shared responsibility model, wherein you are responsible for anything that happens in the cloud, and we are responsible for anything that happens on the cloud. Okay, so global infrastructure is the most, AWS global infrastructure is the most secure, extensive, and reliable platform which offers more than 200 fully featured services from data centers globally. So what you see over here are the regions. What exactly is a region? Try to, in your mind, when I explain the concept of regions, AZs, and edge locations, try to folks relate it with the idea of post offices, right? So back in the day when we used to have post boxes, post offices, there used to be a small post box, around our vicinity, around our societies. Then there used to be post offices in every city. Then there used to be a larger post offices or city district level post offices, right? So just try to relate to that particular infrastructure for understanding the AWS global infrastructure as well. So let's first try to get to the regions. Okay, so what exactly is a region? Region is a geographical location. The concept of region is a physical location around the world where we are clustering our data center. So if you read here on my screen, a Mumbai region, right? Mumbai region is a physical location near Mumbai, of course, where we are clustering our data center. So we call each group of data center as an AZ. More on that later. But yes, what exactly is a region? Where you're clustering the data centers. Now, with the new region coming up in Hyderabad, we'll have more options for you to keep your data secure, to allow your financial application meet the governance need. But yes, this is what we have right now, the Mumbai region, wherein you can actually meet all your compliance regulatory requirements by keeping the data within the geographical limits of RBI, within the boundaries of the Indian national territories. So you keep your data within the geographical locations in the Mumbai region, and you can serve your customers all around the globe. Okay, so AWS provides a more extensive global footprint than any cloud provider, and to support its global footprint and to ensure customers are served across the world, we are rapidly opening up new regions. As I said, Hyderabad region is recently coming up, right? So we maintain regions around North America, South America, Europe, China, Asia Pacific, South Africa, and Middle East. Okay, so you would see all the regions spread across the globe. Now, if you remember, I mentioned a term which is called AZ as well. Okay, so region is something which is a physical location. Each region provides you redundancy and connectivity. But what exactly is AZ then? Okay, AZ, or an availability zone, is a collection of one or more discrete data centers with redundant power. Please note the keywords out here: with redundant power, networking, and connectivity in an AWS region. Okay, so when I say an AZ is giving the customers to ability to operate production applications and databases which are very highly available. So what happens? Okay, so if you have ever read any stories out there, one AZ goes down. Okay, what happens when one AZ goes down? We ensure that your applications, if it is a managed application, is always running on two or more AZs, so do not have to worry about redundancy. But we highly advise, if it is an unmanaged service, make sure your application is running on at least 2 AZs for any redundancy purposes. Okay, so if one AZ goes down, we have different other AZs to take care of your applications. We have other AZs to take care of your data. Okay, so the network performance is sufficient to accomplish synchronous replication across AZ. These all AZs within a region are interconnected with high bandwidth, low latency networking over fully redundant metro fiber. Okay, so these provide traffic between the AZs, which is encrypted. You do not have to worry about encryption. You might say, Grisha, why are we transferring our data from one AZ to another AZ? I'm very, very skeptical about it. So you don't have to worry about it because it is very secure. We have a very high bandwidth and it is all encrypted. Okay, so if an application is partitioned across AZs, we have better isolation. We have better protected issues from power outages, from lightning strikes and whatnot. Anything can happen, right? So all the AZs are physically isolated so that anything happens in one area, your other AZs are meaningfully secure. Okay, so this is what region and AZ is. Now, you just saw so many of regions out there. How should I select my region? Should I just use Mumbai region? Is it? Or should I go ahead and choose any region? What is the criteria of that? The first question is, can I use any other region? Of course, you can choose any region that you want. You're not limited to use only Mumbai region. But if the answer is yes, which is I'm telling you, then how do I choose the best region for myself? You are giving me so many options out there. There is a list of options, or I would say best practices to selecting a region. Okay, so the first thing is the data governance. Okay, if you think your data governance and legal requirements do not confine the region or geographical location, you can go ahead and select any region. But what if RBI today tells you that the customer data should be within the Mumbai region or should be within the Indian boundaries? Then you have to select the Mumbai region, right? Now, the next is proximity to the customer. Your customers today are sitting in India, yes, but what if your customers tomorrow you're creating an application where your customers are sitting somewhere in Singapore or maybe in Australia, right? So you can actually still keep your data in Mumbai region and you can provide your services to your customer in another region. So it is very much possible to use two different regions for your application, right? So you could choose any region which is more closer to your customers to provide better performance to your customer, so that is also possible. Now, the third point is service available within region. Now, you would say, Girisha, what are you saying? Not all services are available within all the regions? Yes, some of the services might not be available in all the regions. So you will have to make sure that whenever you are selecting a service, is that available in that particular region or vice versa? Okay, if you are selecting a region, the particular services that you're going to use, is that particular service available in that region or not? Okay, so this is the third point. And of course, the last one, the cost. Now, again, one of the questions which might be going through your minds is, oh, you already told me 3 options. Why are you changing the cost now, right? So this is not something that we do intentionally, but you would understand the tax mechanisms around the world are different, right? So one service and one infrastructure which might cost you X amount in a Brazil region might cost you different in the North America region. Why? Because the taxes are different, the pricing mechanisms are different, and because of all these factors, you will get a different cost for your services in different regions. But don't you worry about it. Now, I'm not putting you in soup out there. Okay, so we have our cost calculators which can help you calculate this cost well in advance. Okay, so it's not like I want you to create an application and then calculate the cost and then change the region. No, absolutely not. We understand our customers' requirement, and that's why we have cost calculators where you can just click and calculate the complete pricing of one particular application with one region or second region or third region. And not only that, the pricing for all the services are mentioned as per the regions as well. So whichever mechanism suits you, whichever way suits you, you have that bifurcation of different cost as per the region well in advance. So you're not looking in the dark, or you're not just shuffling through the numbers. Okay, so you have that particular information well in advance with you. But remember, costs will vary as per the region. So these are the 4 main best practices or terms which you should remember while selecting a region. Now, coming to the AZ back, you right now have 84 AZs around the world. Remember, one region will have at least 2 AZs. Okay, it can have more than 2 AZs as well, but at least it will have 2 AZs. These are all designed for fault isolation, so that if anything happens in one particular AZ, your other AZ should be well in working state, and you will be the ones who will be choosing the AZs. Okay, so if you are trying to create an application using an EC2 instance, what is an EC2 instance? It's a cloud server for you. It's a virtual machine for you. So you can choose whether you want your EC2 to be deployed in AZ-A or AZ-B. Which one do you want to choose? It's your choice. Okay, and as I said before, AWS highly recommends to replicate your data and resources across AZs. Now, let me give you a very simple example here, folks. Okay, so you might ask me, Girisha, you explained me something about AWS doing it for us and me doing it for the AWS. What do you mean, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm talking about 2 services here. Just remind me. Okay, so one is EC2, which is your virtual machine in the cloud. Another is S3, okay, which is your object storage in the cloud. So EC2 is your compute, S3 is your storage. Okay, now if you are talking about EC2, you will have to make sure as a customer that you are replicating your EC2 instances across the AZs, because it's an unmanaged service, right? But if you are using S3, then your data is automatically replicated. When I say automatically replicated, what do I mean? I'm sure many of you at some point of the other these days must have seen your forms, your informations, your reports, lab reports, right? Hosted on S3. Okay. So whenever you host a data, whenever as a customer you host a data or store your data on S3, it is by default replicated across 3 AZs for a standard class. That means we are ensuring your data is not lost with S3. So this is the type of replication. This is the type of benefits you get with the AWS cloud. Now, moving ahead, data centers. All the data centers which are designed for security. This is where your complete data is residing. This is where your complete processing is happening. A data center ideally would have around 50K to 80K physical servers. The location is discrete, so you do not know where exactly that is. I do not know where exactly that is. Amit does not know where exactly that is. Nobody knows. Okay, so each data center has redundant power, networking, connectivity, and housed in a separate facility. All right, so remember, let's try to summarize up this particular explanation on the infrastructure. So you have data centers. Data centers, when combined to one more data centers combinedly, give you an AZ. Okay, when two or more AZs combine, they give you a region. Okay, so a region is a physical location, Mumbai region. Within Mumbai region, there will be 3 AZs. Within each AZ, there will be data centers. So this is the hierarchy that you have for your infrastructure. Okay, now once we have sorted, I'll go back to the slide where we were discussing what all do we need to discuss. So you have covered the infrastructure. Now we'll discuss the foundational services. Okay, so what are the foundational services? We'll start with compute. This is the complete platter of the compute services. There are many more than this, but today I'm just trying to concentrate on letting you know about these. We will be talking about on the major compute services, but yes, you can actually combine that information with the ones that are mentioned on the screen right here. Okay, so whether you talk about having a virtual server, whether you're talking about a fully managed solution like Elastic Beanstalk, whether you talk about serverless solution like Lambda, we have it all for you. Okay, so what exactly is an EC2? Let's start with an EC2. What exactly is an EC2? Okay, let's try to connect this EC2 with what you have used till now. Okay, so you must have used some computer, you must have used some server. Okay, so Amazon EC2 provides you a secure and resizable compute capacity in the cloud. It is designed to make sure your web scale cloud computing is very, very easy as a developer. Now you might say, Garisha, okay, it is fine. This EC2 is good for me, maybe, right? But what is it doing for my migration? Let's say if I already have an on-prem, what is it doing for that, right? So functionality of anything which you had on-prem, physical servers, that is being replaced by EC2. So compute capacity essentially means the functionality which the traditional on-prem physical servers provided for you, that is what we mean by the compute capacity. So you get the same functionality as you would have from a physical server, but with the benefits of hosting into the cloud. Okay, so this is where EC2 comes into the picture. Now, one of the things I hope it is going through your mind, okay, EC2 is a virtual server, EC2 is a virtual server, but hold on, my laptop server requirement is different, my phone's capacity is different, my system's performance is different. How do I choose the right EC2 then, right? So the good thing is that instance type. What is an instance type? It's an EC2 instance type that can vary in several ways. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a look at that as well. All right, so when I talk about EC2 instances, there can be different type of EC2 instances. If you're using a laptop for a general purpose, you might just go ahead and get a laptop. But what if somebody is using it for gaming purposes? Don't you think their requirements will be different? Haven't you seen some gaming professional asking for some customized options, right? Haven't you seen some graphic designers asking for a different requirement for their computers and laptops? Same applies for EC2. Okay, so if your use cases and want you to have general purpose instances, then you have general purpose instances. If you want high performance in terms of computing, you have compute optimized. If you want to create in-memory databases around it, you have memory optimized. If you're like me and using machine learning and deep learning algorithm using EC2 instances, you have accelerated computing. Then also, if you want to use it for storage, for distributed file systems, for data analytics, right? So you have storage optimized instances. So every instance of what you see on the screen right now vary in the type of storage, in the type of compute that comes with that particular family of instance. So you have general purpose, compute, memory, accelerated computing, and storage optimized. Okay, so whatever is your use case, you can use it that particular family of instance. All right, so that's where we stand in the type of instances. Now let's try to categorize the compute services that we saw on the first slide of the compute. Okay, so EC2 is basically an infrastructure as a service where you will be provisioning the virtual machine that you want to use. You will be managing it. It is very much clear that this is kind of an on-prem server that you're going to use. Now, the next thing, and one of the very famous service is called the Lambda. Okay, it's a serverless computing. The challenge with EC2 was, with sometimes people did not want to provision it. People did not want to manage it. So we came up with a solution where you do not have to manage the server. It's called the serverless computing. When I say serverless computing, it is still running on a server. It's not magic, okay? But the server will not be managed by you. The server will not be provisioned by you, okay? So this is serverless computing. So you just need to give us the code. We will execute that on a particular server. Again, the server is not your headache, and it can be triggered. For example, you want to say, Girisha, whenever a particular user of mine or customer of mine clicks on, let's say, getting a bank statement, please trigger that particular compute to calculate that bank statement or particular account statement and return it to his email, right? Now, this complete process can actually be automatically triggered by events. So what happens whenever the customer clicks on get the statement, that particular trigger will write down a function. I mean, it will just trigger a Lambda function on where the code is written to get the statement. And once the statement is stored or retrieve, the Lambda function will return it into a particular storage or might be directly share it on your email. Okay, so this is how a serverless triggered function can happen. Now, if you are managing the servers, the EC2 instance in this process, this is called this can be done using EC2. If you do not want to manage the server with incomplete process, this is called Lambda. Okay, this is quite a new concept, but it's very easy to learn. I do not come from a very core developer background. I do not come from a very core backend development background, but still it is one of the most used services by me. So I'm just giving an example. Anyone and anyone can use it. Okay. Now, the next thing is container based. Okay, when I say container based, I'm sure many of you are already used to this term. This is the most used terms for DevOps professionals, for developers, where they want to club together everything. Why? Why do we need it, first of all? So the challenge is when you create it, when you develop something, and when, let's say, test something, and when you send it to production environment, the environments, the platforms might differ. Okay, so people usually have a very hard time in having all the dependencies which are required to run a code. And that's where container based applications or computing brings a benefit, where you can just combine together everything at one place, club it to a container, and just run it on any platform. It will run in the same way. Okay, so you could run your container based applications, your services using ECS, EKS, Fargate, and ECR. Okay, ECS is Elastic Container Services. EKS is for Kubernetes, if you have heard of Kubernetes. Fargate basically combines the two great things. It combines serverless and container. So if you want serverless container applications, then Fargate is the right option for you. And then you have ECR, where you can save all your images. Now, of course, a few terms here might be crossing over your head, but bear with me. These are just for anyone who wants to understand these things later on or use these things later on. You should be aware of it. Just let your brains hear about it. So whenever you start learning on this, your brains are more accustomed to it. Okay, so ECR is for container registry. Fargate is for serverless container, EKS is for Kubernetes, and ECS is for container services using normal clusters. Okay. Then you have Elastic Beanstalk. It's a platform as a service. It's for people like me. Okay. So for example, I wanted to tomorrow create an application where I just want to give everything as a code, and the rest of the thing can be managed by someone. So this is what Elastic Beanstalk provides you. Just you focus on the code, rest of the whole infrastructure, the management, the networking, everything will be managed by Elastic Beanstalk. So it's more of a Maggie solution, I would say. Why Maggie? Because you just get the Maggie, cook it, and you are ready for that. So it's pretty much like the same. You just get the code, put it into Elastic Beanstalk, run it, and it's ready for you. Okay. Whereas EC2 is like your full-blown recipe. So it's a DIY solution. So you provision the EC2, you write down your own code, you install any servers or any, not the servers, but any operating systems that you want. So you can provision, you can launch, you can add storage, add any type of application, operating system, software as per your need with EC2. Okay. So these are the compute services that we have. Now, with every compute, you might want to distribute the traffic. Okay. Just like every, you might just imagine it, whenever there is a sales season coming up, not only just the online retail website are burdened by it, but I'm sure many of the banking professionals would agree with me. If they run an offer out there, your banking servers are also loaded with number of requests increasing, right? So how do I balance the load? So there are two things for balancing the load. First thing is elastic load balancing, where you distribute the traffic across different servers. Okay. So if I have 3 customers sending out requests, my elastic load balancer will collect all the requests and it will distribute all these to among servers. So it will happen automatically. Okay. So you can have your applications or servers running into one AZ or different AZ. What all can I send my traffic to? It can be an EC2 instance, it can be a container, it can be an IP addresses, and of course the Lambda function. All right, so this is possible. Now, as I said, there are 2 parts. One is the load balancing. Second is, what if I want to increase or decrease this number of EC2 instances? Okay, so what if today I have X customers, okay, and suddenly an offer goes from my bank and I have 3X customers, all right? What will happen in that scenario? So in such cases, what you can do is auto scale, all right? So using auto scale, what will happen? You will not be worrying about the provision capacity. Your number of EC2 instances will increase or decrease as per the rules that you set. So you can enable automatically adding or removing of EC2 instances according to the conditions that you define. Why conditions? You could simply say my traffic is increasing, why don't you increase it? No, it's not as simple as that. That is one way. But what if the traffic is actually not increasing, but it's the number of requests that is increasing? You understand? Number of customers are not increasing, number of requests is increasing, right? So it might be possible. There is a faulty system which is letting all the participants to go through one system suddenly, right? So this is where you want to scale your EC2 instances, all right? You want to say, I will add EC2 instances automatically on the fly, all right? So you can detect impaired instances as well. So if one instance goes down, you can actually just find out that it's unhealthy and replace it with instance which is a healthier one, and you do not have to manage it. Trust me, it saves you a life, right? So whenever an instance goes unhealthy, you can actually replace it with a healthy instance automatically, right? So you have several options. You have manual, schedule, dynamic, on-demand, and predictive. So what are these? Manual is when you are going to select it. Scheduled is, let's say, the servers are going to be your banking portal is going to be open from 9 to 5 p.m. only. And you know that at every salary day, there will be more people who will be accessing who will be accessing their accounts using your servers, right? So you can schedule increase in the number of instances on every salary day. Okay, so let's say every 28th of the month, you schedule your number of EC2 instances or number of servers to be increased to 20, and by every 5th or 6th of the month, you get it back to the normal. Okay, so this is a scheduled one. Dynamic is when you want to keep it open as per the number of requests coming in, right? So you say, okay, let me keep it dynamic, wherein I can increase or decrease it as per the load. Or you can say predictive. Predictive is when you use a machine learning algorithm on the back end to predict what are the patterns in the past time, in the past year, and on that basis, it will automatically scale up or down. So these are the different types of scaling, okay? Now, what about storage? But before going to storage, I want to keep track of the time also, folks. All right, so we are good till now. But before even going for the storage, let me share one very nice example for you. Many of the folks over sitting here might have one thing in their minds, that if I go for AWS cloud, it might cost me more. If I use the compute from the cloud, it might cost me more. But let me share one very nice real-time case study with you. If you have ever heard of Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, they were actually were able to reduce their compute cost. I'm talking about compute, what we just discussed, okay? They were actually able to reduce their compute cost by 60% by using AWS services. Just imagine, folks, they were able to reduce it by 60% by using EC2 spot instances and EMR, which have been very effective for them to save compute cost while maintaining an elastic workload. When I say elastic workload, they don't have to worry about scaling up and down manually. It's very elastic. Whenever the number of customers or the number of transactions is increasing, they automatically spin up more instances. And whenever it decreases, they reduce that number of instances. So how did it all happen? So Bendigo were expecting an increase in demand on its on-prem infrastructure. To prepare the bank, they decided to go a digital transformation using AWS. In March 2020, they kicked off the cloud migration, and they began running their workloads. They started using EC2. In 2021, they went into the second phase, wherein they experimented with new solution, and they finally were able to reduce the costs by 60%. Okay, so this is one very nice case study wherein you can just relate with it if you are belonging to that background, how you can cut down your own costs with your banking services using AWS. All right, now let's move ahead for the storage, wherein you want to save your data, right? These are the storage categories that we have. Remember, this is different from database. We are storing the data. Now, data can be structured, data can be unstructured, data can be semi-structured, right? When I say unstructured, if you don't know about it, unstructured data is pretty much like a video or an image or a text or maybe speech, right? All these things. So storage services are these four ones majorly: S3 for object storage, EBS for block storage, Glacier for archiving purposes, and EFS for file storage. Okay, so what exactly is S3? One of the most used service around the globe from Amazon. So what exactly is this S3? Let's try to understand this. So this is called simple storage service. All right. Now this S3 stores data as objects in resources called buckets. Okay, so you can store as many objects as you want in a bucket and write, read, and delete objects in your bucket whenever you want. So every object can be 5 terabyte. But just absorb what I'm going to say here now, folks. I'm saying the object can be up to 5 terabytes, but you still have unlimited storage. Okay, just absorb this. I'll repeat this. Objects can be up to 5 TB in size, but you have unlimited storage. Why? Because you can have as many objects as you want. Okay, so S3's major benefit, I would say, something which keeps it apart or unique, is its unlimited storage with a very, very low cost. Okay, so you can control the access to both buckets and objects when you want to control who can create or delete or retrieve the objects. For example, I'll give you a very nice example. Recently, I was downloading one of my lab report, and I just happened to notice it was hosted on S3, and one of my family members say, if it is hosted on S3 on your cloud, can anyone else also see it? And I explained it to them, no, it's not possible, because the credentials that I put in while I'm going to download my report is what is required. So if those credentials are given, then only that particular report can be seen. Okay, so this is where you can control the access to be given to your customers, to be given to your decision makers, to your managers, at the bucket level, at the object level. Okay, and not only that, you can choose any region. If you want to put your data in Mumbai region, if you want to put your data or store your data in Asia Pacific or the region, North Americas, Australia's, whatever. Okay, so if you want to optimize for latency, if you want to minimize cost, if you want to address regulatory requirements, all that can be done using S3. It is running on the world's largest global cloud infrastructure, and it is designed for 11 nines of durability. Just count the nines over there. I'll give you a second out there. Just count the number of nines that you see on my screen right here, folks. If you can see the screen, just count the number of nines that you see here. Okay, so it's called 11 nines of durability. That means if I was to save my data, it is durable for 99.999999999% chances. All right, so this is the benefit that you get with S3. Let's go ahead and understand about EBS. Okay, now object storage is pretty much like S3 is pretty much like a drive, your online drive, where you can download the data, upload the data. But what if I want something attached to my EC2 instance, just like your hard disk, right? So you have your hard drive attached to your laptops, right? So what if I want something of that sort? So which is the solution is EBS, Elastic Block Storage. So you get persistent block storage for your instances that can be replicated. You have different options again. Remember, one of the key features of AWS was flexibility. We want to give you as many options as possible. Then you can scale up or down in minutes. And then, of course, you pay only for what you provision. You can take snapshots. You can save all, for example, if you see here, you can save all these snapshots in S3 bucket for further reference purposes. Okay, so you have this functionality as well. You have encryptions where you do not have to worry about the security of your data. So this is about EBS. All right. But the challenge with EBS is that you cannot attach it with multiple EC2 instances. Okay, so it's not possible to have one EC2 instance, or maybe let's say I want to take an example of 100 EC2 instance and connect it with a single EBS. Okay, so this is not possible. If I have one EBS here, one Elastic Block Storage here, and I want to connect 100 EC2 instances with this, that's not possible. Okay, so what is the solution for this? The solution for this is EFS. S3, yes, that can also be a solution, but that is not ideal because you will be uploading and downloading your data every time. Okay, so the right solution for that kind of use case is EFS. So if your application is running on, let's say 100 of servers, or let's say if you have 100 different applications, each running on single server, and they are all requiring the same storage of or same data, then EFS is the solution for you. Okay, so these are the three main services. Now coming to Glacier, what exactly is Glacier? Glacier is when you archive your data. Just we have archived our water in the glaciers. So similarly, if you want to combine it that way, we have our fresh water archived in our glaciers. You have your data archived in your S3 glaciers. So whenever you want a low cost data, which you need some time, maybe for auditing purposes, for backup, but you're not going to access it very frequently, right? So that's where you need S3 Glacier. You can retrieve the data within maybe a few minutes to 12 hours. If you want it in a few minutes, the Glacier cost will be a little higher. If you can afford up to 12 hours of retrieval time, the Glacier cost will be very, very, very cheap. Okay, so you can configure lifecycle configuration also. For example, you want to say that this when I start my new banking procedure, this regulatory data that I need will be very frequently accessed for auditing, by several branches. But eventually, when I have regulated all my processes, this might be required on a monthly auditing by the team. So I will transform it in a different class. But after maybe 30 days, I know that this data is not going to be used not more than once a year when the audit happens. So once a year, the audit is going to happen, and that is the only time when I'm going to use this data. Okay, so you can put your data into S3 Glacier, where you will get very, very cheap pricing. So the benefit out of Glacier is you are saving your data, you're archiving data at a very low cost, and you can, if you want, if the regulations change after 5 years, go ahead and delete it. Okay, so this is the S3 Glacier for you. Now we'll move on to database. All right, wherein you can save your database, where you can save your SQL data or no SQL data or graph data. All right, what are the services that you can use for this? So you have relational databases with RDS, you have Aurora, which is in the cloud-born engine. Then you have DynamoDB and then Redshift. Okay, so let's try to go through these one by one. So DIY versus AWS Data Space Services, you could create a database on EC2, yes, but you will have to manage all the things about patches, about multi-AZ, right? But with RDS or a managed database service, you do not have to worry about it. Remember, I told you about unmanaged service and managed service. So this is your unmanaged service and this is your managed service. All right. So you will have to take care of a lot of things here, but you get maximum flexibility. With this, you will not be managing a lot of things. You just worry about optimization. Okay, so this is the difference. So what is RDS? RDS is something where you can scale, operate, and set up a database. It can be built up on these different database engines. It is very easily scalable. Software patching is there, backups, snapshots, everything that you might need. Again, for multi-easy deployment, a very nice synchronous replication is there. So for example, if you have your two different AZs, right? One of your database, primary database sitting here and a standby database is sitting here. So what happen if this goes down? There actually will be a synchronous replication happening all the time. And whenever this goes down, all the queries can directly start coming there. So you do not lose any data, you do not lose customers. All right. So this is how multi-AZ deployment can work. Encryption is available at rest and transit. Now, what exactly is Aurora? It's an enterprise class relational database engine. It is MySQL or PostgreSQL compatible. It is 5 times faster than MySQL and 3 times faster than PostgreSQL. Just imagine the performance. And it continuously back up to S3. It has up to 15 low latency read replicas. So all these are the features you might need for a greater database performance. Okay, now again, I'll remind you folks, it's not like we don't want to take up your questions. It's not like we want to avoid your questions or anything. We'll take up all the questions. Please make note of those questions. We will be taking up those questions once we wrap up with the explanation. All right, so please hold on. We will be taking up these questions, but in just a while. And since we are mentioning Aurora here, I want to let you know something. One of the very heavy workloads which FSI or financial service industry is spotlighting these days is actually Aurora. Okay, so customers are the FSI customers are choosing Aurora to have a very high performance, to have a very nice speed, and to have a very great compliance. So as I shared earlier, security and compliance is definitely a shared responsibility between AWS and the customer. With Aurora, most of your compliance programs are covered, with whether it's SOC 123, it's PCI, it's IRAP protected, it's MTCS compliance, ISO 1EC to 27001 to 9001, right? So all these compliances are covered with Aurora. So that is one thing. So if you have a compliance regulation such as PCI, DSS, which need encryption of data at rest throughout the data lifecycle, then Aurora is the solution for you. Why am I mentioning it here? Because in my experience, I have seen a lot of FSI customers moving to Aurora for all these benefits. They are choosing to configure their security with a restricted set of AZs for adjusting the rule bases using Aurora, and they can improve their postures also by using different other mechanisms. But yes, one thing that I've actually seen is automating auditing with the Aurora, which is a very great feature. All right, so just letting you know about this. Now, more on this, Amazon DynamoDB. So what exactly is Amazon DynamoDB? It's a fast, flexible, NoSQL database service for any scale. When I say any scale, remember it's serverless, my friends. Again, the serverless terms comes into the picture where in RDS, you might be asked to provision a particular instance. With DynamoDB, it's a serverless solution. Do not have to worry about any scale. Okay, so you do not have to worry about the scaling. Just keep the queries coming in, keep the NoSQL queries coming in, and it will be able to handle it and scale it automatically. All right, so it's a fully managed solution. It gives you very low latencies, and it's a fine-grained access control. Everything that you need for a NoSQL databases is given by DynamoDB. Some of the other purpose-built database services are Redshift for data warehousing, for your OLAP transactions. Then you have DocumentDB, which is more of a document-based database. MongoDB. Neptune is for graph database. If you are anytime thinking of working on blockchain, then you have ledger-based database services as well. So that is QLDB, which is possible, which enables you to use blockchain mechanisms as well. So this is a little bit about databases here. Now let's talk about networking for a while. You can go ahead and grasp a glass of water if you want, folks. I'll give you 2 minutes out there, and then I want to break out after this for questions and answer panel. Maybe just take a minute or two to get yourself a glass of water. I hope all of you are holding right, enjoying this session. Just get yourself a glass of water or something. And then we'll continue on networking services. You can keep your questions ready. We will be just coming to that portion where we'll be answering your questions in just a while, okay? All right, so let's start with the networking. All right, networking is very important in a generic term also, in a technology term also, so in networking services, we have VPC, we have Route 53, Direct Connect, and VPN. All these will be covered very briefly, just an introductory detail about these. So VPC is your own private cloud within AWS Cloud, okay? So this is pretty much like a plot which is being given to you in a city. You are free to create as many buildings as you want. You are free to give them the addressing that you want. You're free to dedicate a gate, whatever you want, whatever type of roads you want to create inside it, whatever type of communication you want to enable within it. So that is pretty much the VPC for you. So it's a part of the cloud for your own private usage. So that is VPC. Okay. So when you want to put VPC together, okay, so let me just put this first. So in VPC, you have two different type of, just like every society, you might have different buildings. There is one, let's say, what do you call this, where you can play, and there's a building where you can actually just go ahead, play some games out there. I'm just forgetting the name. Clubhouse, right? So this clubhouse is a public building. Anyone can come in and just play and just go, right? Whereas there will be more private buildings where people are residing. So there might be a guard sitting out there. Not everyone can come from outside, can come inside the building. Not everyone from inside the building can go outside without having right permissions and all that, right? So you might have those kind of different provisions, right? So public subnet is one which is connected with the public internet. So anyone from the public internet can access the resources here with the right permissions, and instances also can access the public internet with the right permissions. Okay, so this is public subnet. And anything that you don't want the public internet with, so that is private. Okay, so which is private, which is put into private subnet. To give you an example, most of the times you will keep your databases like RDS or DynamoDB instances, DynamoDB or RDS instances in your private subnet. Why? Because you don't want anyone from the outside world to have the access to your data, right? So this is private subnet. Public subnet is where your let's say application servers will be residing. So whenever somebody is accessing your application, that application server is spinning up and sends the request further, right? So that is where your application instances or application server instances might be residing in your public subnet. Okay, so public is what is connected to the internet. Private is what is private. It is not connected to the internet. Okay. Now, what if you want to have a connection with your corporate data center? You already have a banking data center and you want to connect it with your database, which is residing in on your cloud, on your VPC. So with a VPN, you can actually connect your private instances or your complete VPC with your corporate data center. So let's have a complete look at it. So if you have your EC2 instances, right, which are running an application, you can actually connect with your clients using an internet gateway, right? Internet gateway is, as the name says, it's a gateway which connect to the internet. Okay, so internet gateway will be required to connect to the internet world from the public subnet. And if you have your corporate data center, you can either use a VPN or a direct connect to connect with your private network, or to an EFS, or through the Route 53 for networking purposes. Okay, so this is pretty much a very nice explanation on what all you might be needing for a simple architecture. Now, please remember, my friends, when we talk about networking, there are a lot of best practices that is advised. What I will advise you to go through is a document which is called FSI, or Financial Services Lens, wherein we discuss what should be the regulatory reporting, what should be the grid computing requirements, what should be the best practices for open banking, for user engagement, what should be the right pillars for creating a great architecture for FSI, how would you implement a process for adopting risk appetites, how would you develop an enterprise cloud risk plan, how would you review the applicable compliance and regulatory requirements for your workload. All these points that I just mentioned are all well part of the industry lens, the financial industry lens that is available with AWS. I'll just give you a look of it in just a while, and we'll share that with you later on, so that you can go and have a look at it. Okay, but remember, here today we're just discussing the core services, but when you start using those core services, you will want to have a look at the best practices also. All right, now let's move ahead on the security. Again, as I said, it should be the job zero. You should always consider this as the most important segment on creating architectures. So in security, we will be covering up IAM, AWS Organization, Cognito, Artifact, KMS, and Shield. So as I said earlier, AWS has a shared responsibility model where whatever happens on AWS is responsibility of AWS. Whatever happens in the cloud is your responsibility. IAM is the service which control access to your AWS resources, which gives you granular permissions for users, for groups. It can share temporary access also. For example, your users are already authenticated through some sign-on, and you want them to sign into your AWS account for some temporary access, right? So that is also possible. You can federate your users in a corporate account or some identity provider. Then what is Shield? Shield is a way to avoid malicious attacks, right? So it's a managed DDoS protection services where you can avoid any attacks on your application. What are the assurance programs included? There's a whole comprehensive list of all the assurance programs that are included with our security services. Then let's talk about pricing also. Okay, so pricing is pay as you go. This is what we have already discussed. For example, if I'm using an EC2 instance right now and I stop it next minute, so I will be only charged for 1 minute. Okay, or maybe as per the 1 minute or per second plan, I will be charged for it. Now, if I'm going to use more of it, okay, so if I want to say I want to reserve this EC2 instance for 1 year, so I will be saving my cost. Just imagine that you are going for an Airbnb, and when you are using that Airbnb room, you book it for 1 week or you book it for 4 weeks. You would note that when you book it for 4 weeks, you get lesser price, you get more discounts. So this is the same process. Wherever you go, this actually applies on our general life cycles. Whenever we reserve more, we get better costing. So you reserve for 1 year or 3-year term, you get better costings. And if you use more, for example, rather than booking 1 room, you say go to a hotel industry and say, I'm going to book 10 rooms with you or 100 rooms with you. Can you offer me some discount? They will be more or less entitled to say yes, right? So if you use more of the EC2 services in bulk, okay, for example, you are using rather than just using 50 GB of data, you are using more of it, so you get better pricing on using more of the services. Okay, so these are the 3 mechanisms for payment. Remember, you pay as you go. You will be paying as you use the services. You will pay lesser if you reserve for 1 year or 3 year, and you will be paying lesser if you use more. All right. Now, there are 4 purchase types for EC2: on-demand, savings, dedicated host, spot instances. For FSI use cases, dedicated host is the most used one because you can have your own licensing, you can have your own compliance. So on-demand is where you can actually be charged per hour or per second. Saving plans is where you will be charged as per the commitments. Spot instances is making use of the idle instances. For example, because the supply is fixed and the demand is dynamic, some of the instances are idle, so you get to use those spare AWS capacity at 9% discount. The catch is you'll have to give it up a 2-minute notice for saving the data. Okay, so they can be asked back, but you can get the notice to save your data. Then you have dedicated host for any compliance requirement, for saving the licensing costs and so on. Okay, there is a free tier also. This is very beneficial for all the students out there or all the professionals out there who want to say, Garisha, I understand that you are talking up to me about a very great thing, but I really want to try it, and can you give me something where I can just try to experiment it at no cost? So free tier is where you can gain free hands-on experience with AWS platform products and services. All you need to do is sign up for an AWS account. Remember, all the students out there, you will need a credit card for this, and learn with our 10-minute tutorials and get started. It's as simple as that, right? So now this is all that I have to share with you on the theoretical front. Now, where to go next, what to do next once you attend this training, my friends? I have been speaking a lot on this. So what can you do after this? So you can expand your cloud skills with our digital training, classroom training, and certification program. Amit has explained all these modalities in a detail in his earlier talk. So we have digital courses to help you learn all the concepts, all the services, all the fundamentals on your own pace. We have classroom trainings where people like me or trainers like me will be helping you, assist you on your cloud journeys, and we'll have hands-on learning with the labs as well. Then we also have certification to validate your knowledge on the cloud, on the technologies using AWS certification. Okay, so this is how you can expand your skills. These are the learning paths ideally. So You can go with the cloud practitioner certification. There are specialty paths for big data, machine learning, advanced networking. There are solution paths as well, right? We have over 500 courses to help you with your cloud skills. This is with the classroom training, which you see. We have business essentials, technical essentials, secret to successful cloud transformation, for migration. We have architecting on AWS, which is the most popular 3-day course. Then we have advanced architecting, which is again a professional course. We also have free on-demand digital courses. You can reach out to our BDMs for any queries regarding either the free digital courses or the classroom training purposes. We will be happy to help you out with that. And with this, I thank you all for attending today's session. I want to open up the floor for questions now. Thank you so much for listening to me patiently. So can we open the floor for questions now, folks? And in the meantime, what I would want you to show is a few things. So this is the financial service industry lens. While I start getting the questions. So
I've pasted a few questions in the chat for you.
Yes, thank you, Deepika. What training does my IT staff need to manage the cloud, Himani? You would need to get the services or the training done as per the skill sets. Okay, so I would highly advise you to note down this email Sanjay Singh. He is a great person, a great resource person to help you out. And we also have something which is called LNA. Okay, so it's called learning need analysis, wherein you can actually sit down with your team and our professionals who will work out with your teams to understand what should be your courses apt for your team. So LNA will be a great place to start up. Okay, so I'll highly recommend you that LNA should be the right place for you to get started with it. How would you get started with it? Just reach out to Sanjay. So Girisha, will my current internet connection support my use of cloud computing services? Why not? Just one. Absolutely. Why not? There should not be any challenge as long as your security credentials are matched, security positions are in place. There should not be any problem. What is cloud bursting? This is a question from Upasna. I'm very glad that you are asking this question, because not many people have this understanding. But basically, cloud bursting is allowing your private clouds to burst into public clouds, without any interruption. So whenever you want to combine, let's say the running of private data centers, which is taking online orders, and the application is actually running on the web, and let's say it reaches a very high traffic. So you would want to make sure that rather than using your own data center resources, you want to move to the public cloud. Okay, so that is how cloud burst works. All right. I hope I've answered your question on that. Girisha, are there security laws which are implemented to secure data in the cloud? Yes, Deepti, you have to follow all the compliances. But as I said earlier, we share a shared responsibility model, wherein you will be responsible for all the security in the cloud, all the security of your data in the cloud, and we will be responsible for the security of the cloud. So it's a joint responsibility. We work together on that. But yes, we have compliance programs in place. Do I have a choice on where my data is stored? Absolutely, Saiba. You have maximum flexibility, wherein you can choose if your data you want to store. Remember, we talked about S3, we talked about EBS, we talked about EFS. And if you're talking about geographical location, then yes, absolutely yes. You want to save your data in Mumbai, go ahead and choose the Mumbai region. If you want to save your data in Singapore, go ahead and choose the Singapore region. It's absolutely in your hands. We have next question. What happens if the hardware fails? Very nice question, Amit. A very interesting question. And that's why I said, if I'm saying, see, anything and everything can fail, we have to adjust to it, right? So we always advise having a multi-AZ deployment where, you remember data center, AZ and region. Okay. So if you want to have a good application, have a multi-AZ deployment where your application is running not only just one particular AZ, but two different AZ. So if the whole AZ goes down, your application is still running on the other AZ. And for very critical application, we also advise multi-region deployment where you have one region, another region. So if the whole region, if the meteor strikes, right? Remember, anything can happen. If the meteor strikes, the whole region goes down. So you have other region as well. All right. I hope I've answered your question, Amit. Harshita, how challenging is it to switch from physical servers to cloud? Harshita, if you would have asked me this question 10 years back, I would have been not able to give you a right answer. But today, I can confidently tell you it's very smooth. So we have our migration strategies to help you migrate from your on-prem to the cloud without any hitches. All right. So I hope you can go ahead and have a look at the migration services, Harshita, for that. But yes, I can tell you it is not challenging at all. You just have to adapt to the best practices. Then in the cloud, what are the optimizing strategies, Jaswant? Jaswant, I understand that this question is more towards what should be the best practices, right? So one thing we want to do at AWS is not only just make services available to you for our customers, but also make their life simpler, right? So for this purposes, we understand that you might want to know this. So we have created something which is called a well-architected framework. This well-architected framework is based on 5 different pillars on which you can create your architecture. So you want to ask me, Girisha, what is the best security best practices? Just refer to the well-architected framework, refer to the security best practices, and you're good to go. If you want to optimize it, your application, you go to the optimization pillar, read what is it, what is your use case of an FSI application, just the thing that I showed you, right? So let's say you go for optimization pillar, reliability pillar, you want to operate, you have a operational excellence pillar. So just go to how would you define roles, all these best practices, and you're good to go. You're sorted on that. All right. So I have these are the pillars on which your strategies should be based on. Next question coming up from Sahiba. How does cloud hosting differs from shared hosting? Sahiba, if you could just rephrase your question. I'm having a little difficult time to understand your question. So please, Sahiba, I request you to just reframe your question. What do you mean by shared hosting out there? Harshita, Girisha ma'am, what are the security aspects provided with the cloud? Harshita, security is always job zero. You want to, there are several aspects to it. First of all, the access, right? So you need to make sure whoever is accessing your services on the cloud should have the right permission. That is one. Once you access the cloud, then the access the services, the cloud, the account, all these things about accessing. The next aspect is also the security of your data, right? So you should have the right security of your data in place. Then it's about encryption, right? So whenever your data is at rest, lying at rest, or the data is in transit, moving from one place to another place. So that is another aspect. So these are all the things which you should cover. Again, as I said, the good idea about understanding the security is either taking the security essentials course with us. Okay, if you want, you can take the security essential course with us, or as I said earlier, if you're already running your architectures, go ahead and have a look at the security pillar, which tells you about IAM, data protection, key AWS services which you can use, directory services organization, CloudTrail. CloudTrail is where you can keep track of what were the API calls made. CloudWatch is where you can monitor your cloud resources and so on. Okay, so again, this is all relevant to the financial industry as well, wherein how can you protect your very, very compliance-based data with the cloud. All right. Now, I'll come to next question. What is hybrid cloud? Good question, Deepthi. So hybrid cloud is nothing when you combine several, there can be two definitions, first of all. One is the cloud deployment, wherein I decide to use not only just my on-prem, but also my own cloud, my public cloud. So basically, wherever your applications are running on combination of different environments, it can be on-prem and one public cloud, or maybe different public clouds. Okay, so this is hybrid. Whether you're using your on-prem and your public, one of the public clouds like AWS, or you're using a combination of different public clouds. Okay, what could be some free and authentic resources for Solution Architect Associate exam to practice the labs? Ashish, thank you for asking this question, and thank you for showing interest in our Solution Architect Associate exam. We have a free tier, as I said, and then we also have a set of free labs which are available. So you just need to go to our certification page and you will get all the links there. So just go to our certification page. All right. So I believe these are all the questions that we had from this session. Thank you all for attending this session today. I really appreciate all your questions. If you have more questions you can regarding the training, please remember you can reach out to Sanjay Singh at this email address. I'll give you a minute to note down this email. I'll give you a minute over there to note down this email if you want. It's snghcoi@amazon.com. You can connect with me and Deepika at LinkedIn as well. We regularly post updates regarding on training and certification programs. And if you're interested in understanding how AWS is supporting the customers in the banking industry, we have several case studies on our homepage on DBS Bank, Starling Bank. If you're understanding about data lakes, how can you transform, how machine learning enablement can be done, what are the digital banking options. So just this is just fabulous, folks. If you just have a look at the type of impact we are making at AWS in the banking sector all over the world, just have a look at it. These are all the digital banking case studies. What are the benefits out there? You can have a look at it. All right. So with this, I will pass on the rights now to Deepti. Deepti, that's it from my side.
Thank you, Girisha. And it's been a pleasure, quite engaging, and I'm surprised that the kind of energy you had at 11:15 is the same level of energy that you have at 1 o'clock. And the rapid fire question and answers. Thank you so much for, being so enthusiastic and passionate about solving questions or resolving issues or resolving answers, giving answers to students' queries. So thank you so much. Before I wind up, I need to thank Mr. Amit Mehta from Amazon Web Services, Dr. Rajesh Pankaj from FICCI, of course, Girisha, you and Deepika for being such fantastic trainers, Wendy, Divakar, and the internal FICCI Skills Division team, including Upasna, Abhilash, Himani, Ahmed, Sunil, my colleagues Harshita and Saiba. So thank you to all of you. Dr. Girisha, would you like this link to be pasted so that
Yes,
learners can have access to it? Right.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
So we'll post these links in the chat boxes, and the learners will have access to it. So thank you very much, Gaurav sir from Innovity, for bringing your employees on board. Thank you, Federal Bank, for being a part of this entire journey. Thank you to Amity University, Gautam Buddha University for supporting us and bringing a lot of students on board for this. And we have also pasted a list of resources. We put in a resource link as well on the main page of the bike platform. And whoever is interested can reply on the invitation email, and we'll be happy to share more linking resources and details about the certification programs. So that's all from our side. Thank you very much to all the participants. Thank you once again, Girisha. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Amazon Web Services.
Thank you, everyone. So please remember, we have a free resource link, which have been shared with you all. It's a great place to just get your journey started. Don't sit down on the fence and just think what we can do next. Just get started, folks. It will just take maybe 5 or 10 minutes out of your daily routines, and just get started. That's all we need. Yeah. All right. So this is it from my side. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day. Take care. Have a good time.